Hey there, Bubble Butts. Welcome back to the Gilded Bubble. My name is Carrie, and I'm making a series of Pride Month soaps. So I hope you'll join me all month long. For this LGBTQ Pride, I'm using Trial by Fire by Nurture Soap, Pumpkinhead by Mad Micas, Bright Yellow Raincoat, also by Mad Micas, feels appropriate, The Maniacal Pea, also by Mad Micas, and also Twilight, and of course my favorite purple, Pow Pow Purple. And for my scent, I am using Jammin' Rock Candy from Nature's Garden. I love this scent. It's just really subtly sweet and just delicious. Now, of course, I forgot to film me pouring the purple layer, but you'll get the idea. Here I'm suiting up to do my blue layer. I want to talk a little bit about why I decided to do this Pride series. And I thought I'd start with the rainbow one, but you can see there in the foreground another Pride soap that I will be talking about next week. But this is the classic rainbow pride flag. And I think there's a misconception that this is a gay pride flag, but actually it's meant to represent the entirety of the queer or LGBTQIA plus community. That represents all lesbian, transgender, gay, bisexual, pansexual, intersex, non-binary, queer, questioning, etc. I'm sorry if I forgot. Oh, asexual. If I forgot your representation. I apologize. But we are also commonly known as the Alphabet Mafia, the Rainbow Coalition. No, that's a different organization. But this is a group of people that have their own Pride Month for reasons that really have to do with our ability to accept ourselves and our reclaiming of our identity and how people have historically struggled to be able to be out and to be proud. And so June is Pride Month, and this is celebrated, hopefully in your community. But if it's not, I just know I am celebrating for you, and I honor you, and I see you, and I want you to know that you are loved. And if you are in a position where your family is not accepting or your friends are not accepting, that one day it will get better for you, and just know that there are an entire community of us out here that accept you. I myself am part of this community. I am bisexual. I only in the last few years came out. Took me a long time to get here, and as a result, I've been an ally for a long time before I realized that I was bisexual. But as a young adult, I had a lot of conflicting feelings, knowing I wasn't a lesbian, but finding myself attracted to some of my female friends and even probably falling in love with a few of them, and not really being able to reconcile that because there's not a lot of representation. And I'll talk more about that when I reveal my bisexual pride soap, but I just wanted to give you a little background on why I decided to do this. I also will be donating a portion of the proceeds from this soap to the Transgender Law Center. And I know that that is not an all-inclusive group. I recognize that, but I feel like the transgender community has suffered a lot more in the last couple years, and quite honestly, in a long period of time. And I think that's an organization that really deserves our support. There are a lot of laws in the works to prevent transgender individuals from fully participating in society. In fact, here in Florida, there is, of course, the law about not allowing transgender girls to play sports, up to and including having a doctor confirm female genitalia, which is so freaking ridiculous, not just for trans girls, but also for intersex individuals, people who have abnormal, quote unquote, genitalia. All genitalia are normal. And just it's just a nasty piece of legislation all around. So that is why I've chosen the Transgender Law Center. They do a lot of work for transgender folks, and laws that are meant to repress them and keep them from participating fully in our society. But I'm also a supporter of the Trevor Project. If you go to my TikTok, which is at CPACC, P-A-C-K, you will see that there's a link there for you to donate to the Trevor Project. That's also a great organization for LGBTQ. I can't even speak today. LGBTQ youth and suicide prevention within that community. It's a really great resource. So if you're suffering, if you need a friend, that resource exists, and I will put a telephone number in the end of the video for that. But So that's the background on what I'm doing here. I was planning on doing a Pride series anyway, and the more that I thought about it, the more I thought, you know, you need to give back. Part of my business goal is to be philanthropic anyway, and I plan on giving to a lot of different charities that I support, their message and their cause. But I thought for this series was a great time to really start kicking that into gear. And I'm by no means doing this as a money grab for myself. I had this planned all along, and I just decided, nope, I'm going to give some of it back. I don't, yes, I need to make money, but I also want to service my community. So that's my plan. But this Pride soap just came out so perfectly. I had the most beautiful straight lines. Only change I would make, and I did a second batch of this since, is making the green darker. That green was just a little too light for me. With the exception of Trial by Fire from Nurture Soap, this entire collection of color is the Brights collection from Mad Micas. You get a pretty good deal on that when you buy the whole collection. And my only suggestion, and I probably will review it this way, is to swap out Maniacal P for a more Kelly green, a more true green. But otherwise, these colors are just absolutely perfect. I know that it's probably more of trying to get into bright than a true rainbow collection. Maybe they could do a separate collection. I don't know. But it's a suggestion I'll make to them when I review it. You can see me there adding just a little bit of darker green, but it didn't come out quite the way I wanted. I added a different green the second time, so hopefully that one came out. And also, the reason I made a second batch of this is I already sold out of this one. I had a video kind of blow up on TikTok that I was not expecting. Someone commented on an unrelated video on my personal account wanting to know if they could see some soaps. And I said, absolutely. And I just happened to have my Pride collection curing at the time. And I showed that. And that video went viral. And people began asking for an ability to pre-order. And so I went ahead and posted those soaps, and this particular soap is currently sold out. However, I made a fresh batch yesterday, so it will still be available in June. It'll just be the later part of the month. And I might even make more if that. And I actually, the plan is to continue this as a year-round collection. So if you're interested in buying Pride soap, I will continue this line, and I also will continue to donate the proceeds to LGBTQ charities. I probably will continue with the Transgender Law Center, and we'll also add the Trevor Project to that as well. If there's another charity that you know that is doing really great work, please leave a comment for me. Let me know what you'd like to see me contribute to. I'd be happy to do it. I'm looking for reputable charities that are doing good, honest work. I know that can be a challenge sometimes, so that's my goal. But yeah, I think the green is just, it's a little too like apple green as opposed to a true Kelly green. Like if you think of a pack of Crayola markers, that's the kind of green that I wanted. So it's not horrible, but compared to the other colors, it's a little pale, a little pastel kind of than the others. But man, are these colors nice and bold. And I got to tell you that Trial by Fire from Nurture Soap, I've used it for a couple different soaps, and it is just the most beautiful red. And I don't even like red, so I highly recommend that color. So let's talk a little bit more about the Pride flag. So as I said, this is actually meant to represent the entire community, not just gay men. Also, there is an updated flag, and I will insert that here. This is the Progress Pride flag, and it's meant to be more inclusive by including the colors from the Transgender Pride flag, and of course black and brown for people of color. It is much more inclusive, and the only reason I didn't do that with the soap is because that's just a lot more complicated. But I do want to recognize that I truly believe personally that the rainbow is meant to be all inclusive anyway. And that is my intent with it here. If I can figure out a way to do the new and improved one, I will certainly do that. Of course, this beautiful flag was adapted by Daniel Quasar using Monica Helms's transgender flag color design and to incorporate that. And there have been ones that are the rainbow plus a black and brown and all of those things. But I just wanted everyone to know that I see this rainbow as all inclusive. It is meant to represent everyone, and I hope that you feel included in it. So I'm finally on to my yellow layer. This yellow looks a little more gold here in when it's just dispersed in the oil than it does when it's saponified and everything, but it just turns out beautifully. One of the things that I did here in creating my layers, obviously I divided my lye and my oil up evenly from a, master batch of oil and the master batch of lye. But the thing that I also did was the scents already incorporated, I guess either one works, in the oil along with the colorant. So that all I've got to do when I am ready is stir that lye in, kind of stick blend it for a few seconds, and then it's ready to pour, allowing it to set up in between each layer. The only thing that I would recommend if you're planning on doing an intricately layered soap like this, if you're letting that oil sit for a while, you may need to heat it up. I just kind of throw it in the microwave for 20 seconds. If you've got I've got a very weak microwave. If you've got a stronger microwave, 10 might even be sufficient. Just to get it back up to about 80 to 90 degrees. And that's just because I use coconut oil, which at 72 degrees is solid, and I use shea butter, which is solid at a pretty high temperature. So I want to make sure that I'm not getting steric spots and that it's not starting to solidify on me. I have had some issues with a couple of my Pride soaps having some steric spots in them. And it's not the greatest thing cosmetically. The soap's still good, but it just ruins those beautiful straight lines if your oil is too cool and you just have these little flecks of white in your soap. So anyway, I highly recommend heating your oil up just a smidge. You can also keep it on a heating blanket. I know a lot of people do that. Or a heating pad. I just didn't have that with me in the soap studio. I might go ahead and buy one just to have for that reason. But especially by the time you get to this yellow, orange, and red layer, you're really going to have very, very cool oils. I would also recommend letting your batter rest for just a second. You'll see I kind of did that here to ensure that you're not getting a separation. As your oils cool, if you don't reheat them, you may be subject to false trace. And if that occurs, your batter will start to separate. Now, I did have that happen with one of my Pride soaps. However, I was very lucky in that it recombined itself as it saponified, but that doesn't always happen. You can kind of just have oil seepage when you're done, and it's not pretty, and it'll ruin an otherwise really great soap. So a good reason to keep that oil warmer and to keep it, above room temperature is to avoid steric spots and to avoid false trace. So those are my tips for doing these really intricate layered soaps, especially something like this rainbow one, which is 6 layers. That's a lot of layers, and they're very small layers, and so that oil can get very, very, very cool. My other suggestion with your lye is to make sure that you measure it very, very perfectly and evenly, because you can get a layer that is a little lye heavy or one that is a little light on lye, and it can cause problems. Another issue that I had was if you incorporate too many bubbles into it. Yes, you'll get those little bubble pockets, but with these really thin layers, that's not as much of an issue as it is when those bubbles are resting on top of that layer. The next layer you put on it isn't able to adhere properly. And in my transgender Pride soap, which I'll show you in a couple weeks, that I had some cracking along the edges because of that. And I was able to plane it off, but my end pieces did not properly adhere, and so I had one that broke. I can't, I don't have a good end sample piece. I also did not record me doing the orange layer. You can see it's already there in the mold, but I'm getting ready to do the red layer. An interesting thing to note with Trial by Fire, do you notice how much more opaque that oil is? That's because they not only have a mica in there, but they've also got an oxide in there, I believe an iron oxide. I'd have to double check the label, but it's not just mica, there's also pigment in there. So one of the things you have to be really careful with this is to really incorporate that well. The nice part about letting it sit in the oil like that for an hour is that it dissolves more evenly, and all I've got to do is kind of stick blend it and it gets most of that in there. But you might still get a few flecks of colorant in that layer. It's not as noticeable in a really thin layer, but it might be noticeable if you're doing a larger portion of red. So just a pro tip. Am I a pro? I don't know. I'm making money at this now, so I guess that counts. But yeah, this is just a beautiful red, and you'll see it kind of goes a little orange here, but as it saponifies, it's just a beautiful, bright, bold red. And the orange tones down a little. You can see that orange is very rust colored. They look very similar. Not at all once it's saponified. It's just beautiful. So I'm getting just the last little bit. Notice my color coordination of my spatulas. You know what color spatula I need though? I need a yellow one. I don't have a yellow one. It's so disappointing. I go to do my rainbow soap and I have literally every other color and I don't have a yellow one. And these kind that I bought, I got these from Dollar Tree. They have literally every color but yellow. And I'm so disappointed. And they haven't even had them the last few times I go in. I just love these little spatulas. They're perfect for these size of batches. So I'm letting that sit just to make sure I'm not getting any separation. I'm going to cut here and I'll come back. But yeah, that's all I'm doing is letting it sit to make sure my oil and lye water don't separate. If you've ever seen like a cream sauce or something that you're cooking, if it breaks, if it separates and you see that difference between the oil and the water, that's what happens. It looks very chunky and you have little pockets of fluid in between and it doesn't saponify very well sometimes. There's me making sure I get a hair off of there. I'm very careful about, my cats aren't allowed in the room and all that stuff. But anyone who has cats knows it's a constant battle. I'm constantly cleaning to keep the cat hair out. And even then, I've decided I need to have like some coveralls in the soap room that I just kind of change into so I don't track any cat hair in. It's my new plan. Oh, I see where I splattered some soap on myself. How did I not notice that? It must not have burned me. You see that on my right arm? Your left? I just got to scrape the last little bit of that out of there. And you'll notice one of the reasons why that's so out of frame, this was not an accident. Normally, you know me and my keeping things out of frame. It's also kind of crooked, but we'll ignore that. But you'll see that I've got the front one there in a frame, and I wanted to do 2 batches in one day. So I take that frame and I push my mold up against the wall that's there, and that keeps it from bowing out. So that's why it's kind of partially out of frame there. That mold that's in front of it has also got soap in it, and I'm trying to keep them both from bowing out because you can see how full this mold is, and you certainly don't want your straight lines to kind of become, what is that called? Not a parallelogram, oh my gosh, why can't I remember what that's called? Not a rhombus. What is that? Oh geez, now I gotta go look it up. Hang on. It's a trapezoid, y'all. A trapezoid. I'm like halfway through Googling it and I'm like, I think it's a trapezoid. And yeah, I confirmed it. So you'll get a trapezoid shaped soap if you overfill these molds and don't brace them or put them in a frame. So that is the end of the making of that. And now it's time for the cut. You can kind of see here, I've got a little bit of a blemish on it, but I was able to plane that off. But you can even just see there from looking at it off to the side there how perfect these layers came out. I was just blown away. I was so proud of myself, but also just really happy because I wanted these to be perfect. And I think other than that little bit of that green that I wasn't crazy about, but still really liked, I think they just came out perfectly. And there's a little debris on my soap cutter because I just cut another one before this that I will show you next week. Now here before it saponifies, the blue and the purple are really, really close together. But as it starts to cure, it really gets a lot more distinct. But look at how perfect those straight lines are. I mean, are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? Oh, girl. Sometimes when you make soap, it just comes out exactly how you wanted it to. And this was one of those times. I just can't. And I don't think my second batch turned out quite as perfect. It's pretty good. It's pretty darn good. But it didn't turn out exactly as beautiful as that. So there you go. That is my Rainbow Pride soap. And you'll get to see it all pretty and photographed in 3, 2. And I will put the link to the Transgender Law Center in the description if you're interested in donating. As I said, this collection is sold out, but I am restocking soon. I just want to thank you so much for watching. If you're looking for me online, I am at The Gilded Bubble. However, I blew up on TikTok as at CPACC. I also want to thank my patrons, Heidi, Kate, and Carol. You guys are amazing. You're the best. If you'd like to become a patron, you can find me on Patreon. I've put the link in the description. You get all kinds of special perks, including access to pre-orders. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.